So far in these activities, we have been configuring DHCP policies for pretty much all devices that would exist on our network. Desktops, laptops, mobile devices such as tablets and iPhones, as well as printers and servers, and even some network gear like routers and firewalls, can all get addresses via DHCP. However, sometimes you want to create policies for specific types of devices in your organization. And that's what we're going to do here. To modify our existing scope and create a policy specific to VoIP devices, specifically Cisco IP phone devices. So we're going to start off on server DM1. And we've already got our server DM1 expanded. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click IPv4 and say define a user class. This allows us to create a custom class that we can then apply a policy to. I'm going to say add. And then in the new class view here, I'm going to type in Cisco IP phone, paying special attention to the casing and spacing around this name, and then Cisco voice over IP over IP phones, and OK. Right. OK. Down here, I'm going to go ahead and type in. Sorry, on the ASCII side, I'm going to go ahead and type in Cisco IP phone right there. Again, make sure that you spell that correctly and actually good time to compare this against the book, specifically the binary. Make sure that all the binary numbers match the image that's in the book so that it looks exactly the same. Go ahead and say OK and close. Now that we've defined our new type, our new class, now we can apply a policy for that. So under IPv4, I'm going to right click and say new policy. No, under the scope. Excuse me. Correction, not under the IPv4, under policies under IPv4, right click and new policy. Here we'll go ahead and give this a name such as let's go VoIP policy and next. Under conditions, we want to add a condition, and so we will say add, and our criteria is the user class equals, and then the value that we want to type in here is Cisco IP phone. I'm sorry, not type. I made a typo. It's not MAC address, it's user class. There we go, equals, and then we can click the drop down Cisco IP phone, add. And then we also want to click append wildcards. So any device that comes across as Cisco IP phone something will be applied to. So Cisco IP phone 1, Cisco IP phone 2, those will all match based on that wildcard. Going to say OK. And yep, that doesn't look right. I need a star. Let me edit that. Append wildcard. There we go. Let's try that again. Cisco IP phone, append wildcard, start, add. There we go. That looks better. I see the star there. Again, comparing this against the book, that looks correct. Next. And then under the DHCP options, we want to change something in here so that we can identify that we are actually treating our devices differently. What we're going to do is under 3, the router, we're going to set the different router 10.99.0.251 and add. Of course, this router doesn't exist, but it could exist in our environment where all VoIP traffic went out through one router and all regular network traffic went out a different router. Next, and finish. We can now see that we have our policies and our Cisco VoIP policy right there. If I right click and properties, we'll see that we can actually make some additional changes, such as changing the conditions that we just set, changing the options, change the DNS options. Under general, what we're going to do is we're going to change the lease duration. Right now it's 8 days by default. The scenario given to us by the book is that phones are probably going to be on forever. And since they're on forever as IoT devices, we can go ahead and change this to a really long duration, such as 30 days. We'll then say OK, and we have updated our policy. Now that we have a policy that will apply to devices that identify themselves as phones, specifically Cisco IP phones, we can move over to server SA1. Let me clear my screen. And we can make our server think that it's a phone. For that, we use ipconfig /set class ID Ethernet 0. That should be a 0. That's a typo in the book. And then quote Cisco IP phone 2640. Again, case sensitive. Remember when we were setting this up in the policy, it was specifically Cisco IP phone, capital C, capital IP, capital P. And then it was a wildcard being appended after that. So number 2640 should apply to that wildcard. I'm going to press enter, and this should automatically renew its IP addresses. And so we'll see shortly whether I typed everything properly. If everything worked properly, when I do an ipconfig /all, hopefully my default gateway is now 251. And let's see. So for Ethernet 0, I can see my default gateway 10.99.0.251. Pretty interesting that you can actually set this up so that one server with one scope is then applying different policies for different devices. So for instance, printers or servers could have a different set of policies than phones and desktops, and it's all being run through one central location. All right, last thing I want to do now that I have done this is I want to undo my change. Since this was just an example, I want to do ipconfig /set class ID and then Ethernet 0, enter. And when this is done, I will do another ipconfig /all just to confirm that my gateway has been set back to .250. And that is the end of this activity.